I'm now going to cover the properties panel for the TruTrade Ripper X AI. So in the first line here, you have license key. This is where you input your key. Next, we have PIN. This is your forwarded security PIN that you choose. Make sure nobody else has this. The reason we use this PIN is to make sure that the purchaser is the one using the bot. Okay, next we have the HTF filter settings. So these are optional, and what they do basically is that they auto create a higher time frame that's used to filter the entries from the main time frame, which is the chart series you see here. So this uses a preset ratio of these bars, and it will basically activate automatically if you choose that. So the momentum filter, basically what that does is it will sync these swings in the direction of the higher time frames swing color, and the trend will link the previous, basically the swing highs, swing lows. It will actually use the trend structure from the higher bar series to filter entries. So those can be used together or individually or not at all. Keep in mind that if you enable the HTF filters, you are going to significantly lower the trade frequency because it has to sync multiple time frames to take a position, whereas if these are disabled, it's only using the bar series on the chart. So keep that in mind. So basically the point of the HTF filters is to increase accuracy, but when you increase trade accuracy, you also lower trade frequency. So just because you're more accurate doesn't mean you're making more money. You could actually be making less money because you're getting a slightly more accurate shot, but a much lower fire rate. So if you want to run the bot all day long, leave it alone, don't want to be involved in any capacity, then these HTF filters, along with the volatility shield, which we're going to talk about later, that'll give you the ability to do exactly that. Okay, next we have entry 1 quantity. Fairly self-explanatory. This is the number of contracts entry 1 will take and position size. Entry 2 is optional if on. You can set the quantity here. Okay, next we have entry 1 target ticks. So this basically is the number of ticks from the fill price that you have for entry 1. Next we have entry 2 target ticks. Then we have entry 2 target. So entry 2 target is optional. Typically we recommend using this. If you don't use this, when the color reverses on the wrinkle bars, like let's say you're long here and it goes to the purple color here, it'll exit the trade. But obviously, we typically want to have a target that's far enough away for the second entry, the runner, to hit it. You're okay with the profit there. So if you don't have that on, though, just exit on the wrinkle reversal like you see here. Okay, next we have the stop ticks. This is the number of ticks from, let's say you enter here on the fill. The stop ticks would, let's say, be 25 and put the stop down here. So that's the number of ticks from the fill price the initial stop is placed. Now, if you use these exit settings here, this only applies if the volatility shield, or excuse me, the auto stop target, if this is disabled. So if this is enabled, which we're going to talk about now, then it basically overrides all of this. So if you have auto stop target AST, that enabled, what this does, it actually measures the bar size on the chart automatically, and it will put the stop and target where we want them to go. So mathematically speaking, with this bot's particular algorithm, the best place to put the stop is halfway down the tail. So if AST is on, it measures the bar size, places the initial stop halfway down the tail right here, and then when the second bar closes in favor of the trade, which will be this bar right here, will actually move the stop to the open of the trigger bar. So it starts out halfway, then on the second continuation, it moves the stop to the open of the trigger bar. So that will happen automatically if AST is on, and again, if AST is on, then it will override all of this. So the great thing about this bot, for those of you who used the previous Ripper X, the AST technology and the volatility shield, which we'll get to later, we're not in that product, right? And there's also some AI components going on under the hood and some other changes, too many to mention here. But essentially, all you had was this. So you can control the stop target and the break even plus X trailing stop and that stuff down here. That was available, but you had no way to auto adjust. So this bot is phenomenal because it will actually auto adjust the properties based on the bar size without the user doing anything. So let's say, for example, you're running the Ninja 12.3 on the NQ, which is commonly done in low volatility environments, and then you change this to a 25 bar or a 40-10 bar, it will automatically adjust the stops and targets based on the bar size and the HTF filters based on the bar size without you having to do any of the micromanaging and get into the minutia of the stops, targets, and all this stuff. So if you want to dig in, if you're the kind of person that wants to play with things and do a lot of configurations and do your own homework and do your own, basically configure your own parameters surgically, then you can do this, right? If you just want to have the bot do it automatically using mathematically sound placement, just check this. So most users are going to check the AST and leave it at that. But again, if you want to do your own thing, you can. That's what makes this bot so good. Okay, next we have trailing stop. So this only works if AST is off and only entry 1 is being used. So this block could be a little bit confusing with all these different configurations, but it's incredibly powerful. And once you understand which things go with which things and what feature does what, you can create a lot of different systems with this that are all very powerful in their own way. So again, this is familiar, those of you that saw the previous Ripper X Black Edition, this is rollover from that. So basically, if trailing stop is on, it will trail the bar by X number of ticks from the bar's low, and it's only on single entries. So if AST is on, this will be ignored, and this will also be ignored. Okay, next we have Volatility Shield. This is my personal favorite piece of this bot. It's incredibly powerful and one of the most interesting things we've ever released here at TruTrade. So you can see here that what this does, so I'm going to define these terms. This is important. So we have min continuation chain and pullback chain. So what is a continuation chain? So a continuation chain is the previous. So if there's a higher swing high, so we have a swing high here, we have a swing high here. So if this is a higher swing high, this is bullish. This means the bulls are control minimum is bullish. So the chain length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16 white bars. So the continuation chain here is 16 bars. The pullback chain would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if this goes long, it would trigger a long. So you'd have a 16 here, and we have 5 here. So if the minimum continuation chain is less than 16, that sets to 16, then it will not count this swing. So you can set how stringent you want the criteria to be. How much strength does the market have to show for you to take the trade? So let's say the minimum continuation is 8, which is a fairly reasonable setting. You have to have at least 8 bars on the higher swing high, or 8 bars on the lower swing low to arm the long or the short. And then the max continuation size is obviously whatever you want, 99. So basically, let's say this was like 50 bars right here, and this is highly overextended. So the odds are you're not going to want to go long after 50 or 60 straight up bars. The market needs to cool off first, right? So you could put, like, let's say a max of 30 here, and if you get, and let's say your minimum is 8 and your max is 30, if the swing is less than 8 or more than 30, it will not take a trade. And then the pullback chain, like, so let's say, for example, you were to go short. Let's slide this over. Let's say you were to go short right here, right? You have a big chain here. Let's say it's like a dozen down bars. So the continuation chain, let's say, is 12. The pullback chain is 2, and then it fires a shot right here. So this is a small pullback. And there you can see that there was only a 4 bar. It was a winner, but it was only 4 bars if this were to go short here. But if you required a pullback, let's say it was 5 bars, then you'd have a lot more room until it hits resistance. So you can basically set your own minimum range. This is quite powerful. So you basically can dictate the minimum or maximum risk-reward ratio you're going to allow and how much trend strength you want to allow as well. So both the min and max continuation and pullback chain could be configured right here. Now, if you turn off Volatility Shield, it will just fire everything. 1 bar is sufficient. Any continuation, any pullback can generate a trade, within the algorithm's rules. But if Volatility Shield or VS is enabled, this opens up. Also, you have max interest per trend cycle. This is the number of consecutive shots it can fire in one direction. So let's say this, because most trends, like let's say for example, right, you have wave 1, 2, 3, 4, starting to fizzle out, 5, wave 6 fails and it breaks, right? It's typically after 3 to 6 swings, higher swing highs, lower swing lows, one direction, the trend will erode and break, essentially, like it broke here, it snapped, right? So you can say, okay, I only want to take swings, up to swings 1 and 2. So max entry is 2. If I want the first one, max entry 1, or you can do max entry is 5. So you can control how many waves in the trend you take, and how much risk you want to take there. So this is insanely powerful, and it lets you dial in the bot to whatever you want. You can be very aggressive and fire at everything. You can be very, very tactical and very specific and measured in your approach. And if you're running something like, let's say, a 9-bar continuation, and then a minimum pullback of 5, what we call 9 to 5, which is a fairly conservative default configuration, then it's going to only fire stuff like this, where you have a higher swing high here, it's 9 or more, and then it pulls back to about here. So you've got a decent amount of space between the trigger point and then the previous swing high, swing low. So you make sure that if you're only taking, like say for example, this trade right here, you've got a big continuation and about a 1/3 ratio of pullback to the continuation. And there's a lot of room from the trigger to the retouch line, the previous swing high. Then entry 2, if you have AST on entry 2 equals 1.5 times range. So if it enters here, it will place the first target right here, plus or minus the buffer. And then the second target will be 1.5 times this to this times 0.5. So you have this minus this added on to this. It will put the target out into here. So it's very, very good at auto adjusting, and this is an incredibly powerful tool that you must understand when using this bot, because the use of volatility shield combined with AST lets you configure this thing to basically do whatever you want. There's pretty much no limitation here. And keep in mind that volatility shield can work independently of AST. You can have AST on without volatility shield, but I don't recommend it. But you can have volatility shield on, but set your own stops and targets, which could be fun and beneficial as well. So next we have break even plus X trailing stop. This is common in a lot of TruTrade stuff. Basically what that means is if you're using 2 entries and target 1 is hit, then it will move the stop to the break even price on the second entry, plus or minus X ticks. So break even plus 1 is typically what we call it. Okay, next we have DRAM, and then this is familiar to most TruTrade users. So DRAM basically will increment the number of contracts after a losing trade by X number of contracts. So let's say that entry 1 is a 1 lot, entry 2 is a 2 lot. So entry 1 position size, let's say we put let's say so right now it's a 10. So you'll see here, entry 1 quantity 10, entry 1 quantity is 20, entry 2 quantity is 10. So on here, if it failed, the entry 1, the next trade would be a 20 lot, entry 2 would be, if it was adjusted by 5, would be a 15. So this is pretty common. You can use this or not use this. It requires a fairly large account, so don't use this if you're trading small accounts. That's using the micros. Next, we have DTRAM. So DRAM can work with the auto stop targets and the volatility shield, but DTRAM will not work with auto stop targets because they're going to have conflicts. So if you have AST on, DTRAM will automatically block. So keep that in mind. So what this does, this will adjust target 1 and 2 up or down by X ticks after a losing trade. So you can add to the position, then tighten the target and dig out of a low volatility grinder, kind of a whipsaw pattern. But keep in mind that if you have the volatility shield on, you can completely block any whipsaws from occurring, period, because you're requiring a minimum pullback and a minimum continuation. So if your minimum continuation, let's say, is 12, your minimum pullback is 5, you can't have a structure like this in a low volatility environment. So you're going to force a certain amount of volatility, and the reason we call it volatility shield is because it protects you from low volatility. So if you use this and use it appropriately, you're not going to have to worry about taking trades in low volatility environments. It simply will not happen. So this bot's extremely reliable when configured with fairly strict criteria here. You just leave it on all day long because the range is a range. A 20-tick range is a 20-tick range whether it's on the cash open or on the overnight session. Just because volatility is lower doesn't mean that a 20-tick range is a 20-tick range. 100 ticks is 100 ticks, period. It doesn't matter what the volatility is. The volatility will just dictate how long it takes to close that gap, right? But it doesn't. So in other words, if you have, let's say a 50-tick minimum range based on your configuration here, then if that occurs at midnight or at 6 a.m., you want to take the trade regardless because the math is the math, right? This is a math-based game we're playing here. Okay, next we have the account risk management settings. So this uses account max P&L. Again, this is pretty self-explanatory. If you turn this on and the bot goes up or down X on the session, this is the risk management. This is for the main bot. You'll see down here in the corner if it's on. So you say if the bot goes up or down $500, then it'll just turn itself off. Pretty simple. That's realized P&L for what the bot does, and the account P&L is if the account the bot's linked to goes up or down X, it will go flat and self-terminate. So that's going to be based off the account P&L. So let's say you're trading on, let's say, SIM 101, and SIM 101 is up 1,000. If you have multiple bots enabled, like let's say you're trading the NQ and the ES with the same bot, Ripper XAI, and their cumulative total is 1,000, they will both turn off. So this is the account, and if you only want it to respond to just what this bot is doing, use this one. You can also use both of these and none of them, whatever you want to do. Prop guard basically is something we designed to get rid of lingering orders, typically for prop firms. We can't mention any names, but if you use prop accounts, you know what we're talking about here. Okay, next we have P&L plot on chart. If you check this, look at the P&L in the bottom corner here. That's the font size, max total trades. This is the number of trades the bot will take since it was enabled. So let's say the bot was enabled to take approximately let's say you have 5 in here. It'll only take 5 trades before it turns off. So you can restrict activity based on number of trades or based on bot P&L or account P&L, or any of these other factors up here. Okay, next we have the color. So these are the same trend lines we had with the Ripper X Black Edition. But obviously they're very valuable if you want to time the bot. 'Cause remember, this bot does have a manual entry mode. So if you want to use the chart trader, which will appear here when the bot's enabled, and we'll cover that next after this properties video, you actually can do a manual entry and have the bot automatically exit the trade. But if you do a manual entry, it's going to use the stops and targets that are listed here that you choose up here. It will not use AST. AST does not work on manual entry. So there's a lot going on here. This bot's incredibly powerful. It's both more complex and more sophisticated than the other stuff that we sell if you want to go into the minutia of it, but it's also much easier just as a plug and play. You just turn it on. If I change the instrument and I change the bar size and I have AST on, a volatility shield, it will automatically move those parameters over to the other bar size of the other instrument. So it's very, very powerful there. Okay, so next we have the account. We have calculate on bar close. Basically anything below the accounts tab, do not mess with any of this stuff. This is all stuff that NinjaTrader uses. And again, if you're not a programmer or you're not building stuff, just leave all of these parameters. So again, where it says setup and lower, the accounts, the account the bot's trading on, everything below this field, do not touch any of this. Okay, that's it for the properties panel. Next, we're going to cover the custom chart trader. Okay, I'm now going to discuss the custom chart trader for the Ripper X AI. So the first button we have here is the on-off switch. So if the bot is enabled, the strategy is green, you turn it on here as a secondary switch. This will enable the bot to take trades. If you turn it off, this will essentially pause the action. So even though the bot is up and running, it won't actually do anything unless it's on. So if a trade occurs while the bot is off, it will just skip that trade. Next, we have the flat button. If you press this, it will close any open position on the bot. So whether you put it on with the manual entry or it was entered automatically through the auto setting, this will flatten the trade. Next, we have the directional toggle switch. So the default recommendation is to have it on both. What that means, it will take both long and short trades. If you only want the bot to trade to the long side, select long. The short side, select short. And obviously both indicates it will take trades in both directions. Next, we have the mode selector. So A equals auto, M equals manual. So if the mode is in auto, it will just trade the bot's rules automatically without any interaction from you, the end user. If you change it to manual, it will automatically flatten any open position if there is one and allow you to access the long and short buttons. So long, if you click this, it'll put on a long trade. Short, it'll put on a short trade. And if you hit flat, you can obviously exit that trade. Now, if you're using the bot and this does not show up, so there's no chart trader, you have to actually turn it on. So you'll go here, this little icon where it says chart trader, and you'll see off, chart trader, and chart trader hidden. You want to make sure that it's on chart trader, which is what you see here. If it's off, you will see nothing and you cannot run the bot. So make sure you click this icon, enable chart trader, and then turn the bot on, and it's ready to go. If you have any additional questions, please email the support department by sending an email to support@trutrade.io. Thank you for watching.